Yeah, so if you're like at that length where you're just kind of like hitting and flipping and you don't want this like 60s kind of mod or even 90s flick out, and that was not the goal, then you gotta go a little shorter. You can't just let it sit on your shoulders. So I'm kind of actually doing something on purpose where I'm adding not graduation this way, I'm actually kind of doing the opposite where it'll make the top just a little bit longer than the underneath just by pushing the hair really hardcore against the nape. I know I have lots of hair, except for that this is all not reaching the length. So even though I'm taking a really large section, none of this is reaching except for about down here, okay? But I'm pushing the hair against the nape, and what that does is that it makes the hair on top travel just a bit further than the hair that's kind of flicking up and underneath. So I am flicking this up on purpose so that I have almost like a little bit longer hair on top. So now that I have and I can see this line, I'm gonna carve from the underneath, and I'm gonna just like cut out using the back part of my scissor right here, the apex right there. Just kind of like opening and closing and carving out from the underneath up until I establish a brand new line. So you can get a lot done really quickly, establishing a brand new broken line. So it's a very broken line, right? And I can only really travel as far as my fingers are straight. So if I'm traveling across here, I can really only go as far as I have a good hold on it. So I'm not gonna cut this hair, I'm not gonna cut that hair. And then I'm gonna come back through and just clean this up, just a slight bit. So you can see that already gives me this really beautiful softness with a little bit of shorter hairs underneath. So my established line is more so underneath. There's a little bit of softer, longer hairs that fall over top. And I'm like loving that, right? So now I'm gonna move from that center point out, and I'm just gonna do the exact same thing. So just bringing this in, flipping my hand position from here to here, okay? Because I'm cutting over my knuckles, and I'm flipping the hair up like this, and I have really good control here. I can see where my guide is, and I can just go in, and I can rock away from my fingers as I cut like a new line underneath. And I kind of can go back and forth until I'm happy. And I don't worry about all those little strays. If there's like a tiny little bit of something to clean up, I can always come back in and clean it up. Cool? And now I have that last bit to do. You can see my new line, bringing it down against the nape, anchoring myself with my other fingers, coming in, rocking out, and going from shorter on the underneath to the longer hairs that fall over top of it. And the reason we want those like little longer hairs to fall over top is because we actually want that soft featheriness that comes with these little like wispy pieces. So it's not just such like a stark, harsh line, right? Cool. And then if there's anything to clean up, you can always come in and do a little bit of that, like, you know, picket fence, Charlie Brown t-shirt action right there, just to kind of soften that line. But now already it feels much softer and a little bit more the length. It's not doing like the hit and flip necessarily. And by cutting those hairs underneath a little bit shorter, it's actually gonna do like a hit and hug, okay? So it's not gonna hit and flip on her shoulders anymore. So yeah, we're just gonna take that away. So you can see here's the new length that we've established. Here's the lengths that we gotta deal with. So now that I'm on this side, it's gonna be hard for me not to block the camera. So I'll just bring her in really nice and tight towards you guys and just kind of like stay on the same side that I've been working on. I can see my guide here, and I position my hand to anchor it against her head and as close to her nape as possible, while still kind of creating a straight line with my pointer finger and my middle finger. And again, I'm more worried about these shorter hairs and the line that I'm creating here than these longer bits, because I can always dial those in afterwards and just kind of like boop, boop, boop. So we still have those longer bits hanging over top, but you know, in a more controlled way. Cool. So then taking this last section, bringing it round and up. And so you absolutely can establish, like I'm establishing a new line, right? By doing this, but this is a great way to give somebody a trim who like the haircut's kind of already there. It's just like dealing with the perimeter and getting that really soft, almost razor-like effect, but using your scissors, because you can get that like really soft, razory effect while kind of just like carving out from the underneath with your scissors. Hi guys. Okay, any questions? I won't ignore you anymore. Sorry, I just wanted to be really like intentional about that. I'm gonna do a few sections here that I'll explain to you real quick, but yeah, any questions, anything you want to chat about? How is the underneath shorter if you lift your hand up that way? That's a great question, and let me show you in slow motion so that it can really connect for you guys. Okay, so let me show you. So what do we know about over direction? When you over direct something, say you want to over direct the hair from the face to the back, the front hairs around the face are going to be longer, and where you're over directing to is going to be shorter, right? In essence. So that's how you get that triangular shape in a hair. So oh, you're adorable. Hi, Dom Dom. You're awesome. I always call you Dom Dom, by the way. I never call you Dom behind your back. It's always Dom Dom, just so you know. So if I use my over direction kind of like mentality, but it's not so straightforward. It's not just a straight line. I'm actually over directing these top hairs more. They have to travel further to get to where I'm cutting than these underneath hairs. So if I flip the hair up like this, these underneath hairs are just traveling to here. These top hairs are traveling in this whole loop. That top hairs have to travel all this way to get to where I'm cutting it. And then on top of the top hairs traveling further than where I'm cutting, I'm also cutting from underneath, rocking out, cutting the shorter hairs underneath shorter than the hairs on top. So it's like this two-way. So see how it's shorter underneath, and then see these baby bits are longer than these shorter. I don't know if you can see that well. I can see it from my angle. So these little baby bits down here is the cutting line that I established, and then these longer little bits are like the kind of razory pieces that I've like left. Cool? I hope that helps connect things for you. It's all about the distance that the hair is traveling. So it does look confusing because I'm like with my fingers, right? Okay, cool. So now I'm gonna elevate this. Now, like I said, this is kind of good. You can establish a whole haircut like this, but I'm gonna do this. I see, thanks. You're welcome, Kristen. So I feel like this is really good for a trim. Like say somebody already has an undercut or a soft undercut of layers right here. What a great way to do this is just I've divided this into 3, right? So there's this center section and these 2 triangular sections on the side. So rather than going through and doing concave layers through the whole thing, I'm going to elevate this entire section straight up, and almost like what I did before, I'm gonna kind of like work from the underneath, only this time I'm not like putting that bend in it. I'm just elevating it straight up. And then I'm gonna go in with my kind of Charlie Brown scenario, just so you can see, elevating this whole section, all those short hairs popping out, straight up. And not 90 from the head, but actually straight up. And I'm gonna put a little bit of a layer in there, working back and forth, side to side, like there we go. There's our new line. And I'm just gonna like do a kind of a soft cutting line. I don't want like a ton of texture because this is already going to be a ton of texture. So as I was working that line, I'm like, you know what, just go for it. Because you know why? It's like you're creating these short little layers and it's gonna connect all the way through to this underneath, and you wanna make sure that you let this bottom part completely drop out because you don't wanna mess with your line. You're just picking it up, letting everything fall out, and then just kind of, you know, hey, what's up? All right, cool. So let's, I'm gonna over direct this entire side. I can see when people join in, so that's why I'm like, oh, hi, how are you? Wave, wave, wave. So now you can see like the heaviness here kind of versus this like flatness here that we've created. So now I'm gonna take this entire triangular section that I just dropped, And I am gonna twist this section a bit. So let's do this so you can really see, get a good angle. I'm gonna bring it up and over direct it to the center here, like this. Okay, did everybody see that? So this one went straight up. This one, I'm coming up and I'm twisting it and over directing it straight up and to the center, giving this as much over direction as I can. So this essentially, you can see where it reaches. It doesn't quite reach. It almost reaches. So you want to make sure that you're letting that perimeter fall away as much as you can, but I want to show you that it falls away. Fall away. And then I don't know how to do this from that angle, so I'm going to do it from this angle. Or this angle, so you guys can see. There we go. And I'm going to get my comb out of the way and create a new line right here, right up against my knuckles. Bring it up and really carve in. Cool. I gave that one just a little bit more room because I didn't want to create a hole here. But now we have these layers kind of connecting through in a concave way. Look how beautiful that is. Do you guys see that cutting line? Oh, look at that glorious concaveness. How are you all doing? All right, next side. Bring it down. I already feel better about her. Like she's literally just sitting in my, cupboard, and I'm like, you know what? I can't stand to look at you. You need to be just like a hair shorter and a little more dialed in. I felt like her haircut had like grown out, you know? I was like, you need some help. You need some love. So even though I'm doing a pretty blunt line, it's gonna be really soft and just connect those concave layers through. Boom, beautiful. And then from here, like, I like to detail something all the way out before I move on to the rest of the haircut. So if I'm just not like 1,000,000% happy, or if I'm like, wait, that's the perfect amount of flatness. Notice her head's tilted just a little bit down. That's always a safeguard when you're putting in a round shape around the nape. And then tilt her head back up, look at her profile, you know, and kind of just, and her face shape, and be like, okay, I can see that it's going, right? This is the angle, the cutting angle that I have. I don't want it to go like a graduated bob, right? I wanted to flatten it as much as possible. I like where it's at. I don't feel the need to flatten this out more because I am gonna drop down this entire section. And these hairs, I've created all this movement, right? So now this whole top section here that I'm putting down is going to connect, right, to that underneath part. And now I can establish my new line here. And I feel like if I took this too steep, it wouldn't look like the haircut really connected. It wouldn't just like right now it's gonna swing and have movement and be beautiful. But if I like took this too steep, it would like swing too much and look like, oh, like, like almost like a mistake, right? So you want it to almost be like indetectable, that you put all of that like hidden space, right? Do you guys like my Pittsburgh merch? I drank the water. All right, cool. So, but make it fashion, right? Okay, so combing that down, and she's already got a nice little wave because like I said, I already like did the whole haircut and then decided, nope, she needs to be shorter. And that's just like, sometimes it's like the suitability thing is like also a part of suitability for your client is the functionality for your client. Like, is this going to grow out in like, just like a hot second and she's going to be back and it's going to start doing something different. And if I didn't take that underneath a little bit shorter, then it would have done the hit and flip and looked like a 60 mod cut, right? Which is, we don't hate, but she didn't want that. All right, so I'm establishing my new perimeter line and I can see what's already inspiring me. There's areas that are a little stronger, areas that are a little weaker, and I'm just going in and I'm strengthening those areas. If you guys want to see like this type of cut and way more, like 1,000,000 different cuts and so many different ways to create them, go to renegade-royals.com and join the family. Okay, there's my plug. All right, now going all the way to the front, I feel like, do we want it to be a little asymmetrical in the front? What do you think? Or do we want to just keep it really square? What is your guys' vote? Like, do we want it to have some asymmetry? Not really. I'm like, I vote no, but if you guys stop me now, if you think it should have more, like, a little bit more length in the front. All right, so going back and forth, creating these like really strong little triangles, because as soon as you brush them out and comb them out, boom, it's like super soft and super beautiful. That's why they say comb, 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 cut, comb, comb, comb. Like if you're trying to create a really straight line, you want to comb it, comb it, comb it, create the straight line. And then you comb it, comb it, comb it, and it's not straight anymore, right? And then you have to create the straight line again. And then you comb it, comb it, comb it, because the hair keeps moving around. So when I put something in there that looks that strong, it can look scary when you're cutting it. There you go. It can look scary when you're cutting it, right? You're like, whoa, that's really strong. And then the minute you brush it, you're like, oh, that's really soft, right? So just kind of a good visual for you guys to be like, oh yeah, makes sense now. Cool. So we'll leave ourselves a little bit and we'll just kind of go do the same thing on the other side. This looks like it could be dialed in a little tighter. Cool. Loving that. A little tighter. Okay, cool. And if you want those really like feathery pieces and you want it to feel feathery, hi, Florina, Nicole. How are you? If you want it to feel like, you know, like super feathery, you can go in and carve out like a C shape here and kind of like come back the opposite direction and just really like create those feathers. And then like here, I'll just keep going with it. But if you really want to create that like petally feathery look, you can be really intentional about that and leave those pieces and really accentuate them rather than creating more of like a line, right? So the tighter I take that little picket fence situation and the more intentional I am about that, then the cleaner the line is actually gonna be after I comb it out, right? And it's gonna be like soft, but a little bit more of a line than if I really went in and carved out those pieces. How you guys doing? Wanna check back with you in case you guys are saying anything. Lots of waves. Hey guys. Okay, cool. Scroll. I don't know. I think I made it freeze. Are you guys frozen? All right, cool. And then let's just finish this up really quick. I feel like that underneath, just like as a quick recap of like how we got that concave layers was okay. Cool. Watching on my day off. Thanks, Katie. So funny. Yeah, you know, when else are we going to get education, though? I guess in the back room when your client's processing. I feel like that's the other, like, epic time to do it so it doesn't cut into family time. Let's be real. Is in the back room when your client's, like, getting done. That's what most of the Renegade Royals community, my online education, usually does, is they'll just, like, send me photos and send me pictures of them in the back room with fellow hairstylists. So low key, like one from the salon will sign up to be a Renegade Royals member and then they'll sit in the back room and like all watch it. And I think it's fabulous because I don't care as long as you're getting your education on and feeling inspired and feeling, feeling all the feels. So I wanted her to be like a very square feeling gal, you know, where everything is square. So her layers up here are very, very square, and her layers back here are very, very square, the ones that I've already put in. So it's square, kind of short, like look at how blunt and short these little layers are. Look at those little puppies. But when you drop it, you would never know. So I cut this back portion square and blunt. I cut these sides square and blunt, and then just made sure that it was all nice and she's like, freaking out. She has a mind of her own. It's kind of creeping me out. But what that does is it kind of creates this like these corners, right? It's like looks very square. And this is a great haircut for anybody who you're kind of balancing out their face shape a little bit. You could go in and add like some layers around the face here and break it up a little bit. I left it long just to showcase basically like what a square shape really looks like. But now that her hair is a little bit shorter and a little bit like that concave underneath, you know, is a little bit more dialed in as well. I feel like where her hair is falling and how these ends are getting piecey and that texture and everything is really coming to life. So I feel better about her sitting on the shelf this way, and we got to hang out. I'd say it's a win-win. Hey, what's up? Request to be in the video. If anybody's really serious about being on the video, you can request it. You guys can always request it. But the minute I click, you have to tell me in the comments, I'm serious about being in your video, because the minute I click, people get scared. It's 2 separate haircuts, what you did underneath in the back and the rest. No, I mean, it's obviously comes together to tell one story, but I already cut the whole top, and I don't want to take a ton of time right now. So I'm just kind of letting you know what I'd already done. I just really did want to take up that the concave layer and the length, because I felt like it matched like the haircut even just a little bit better.